ebusion for ahaye GC News mema obibia akwaba ahade latest and hot news enkwa era mede bramo enuti se unya subscribe to channel dia bomode ase obe subscribe do be ya se obe click the subscribe button no na wabele notification no we ya sa new video bia be upload no when the first person I was sa ebeka sa video I feel we are no like video. Give us a thumbs up. Now, fe share my offer so now when you be here now and somewhere echo so will Ghana memohanum. I feel you share a year and somewhere abeto yepno so yinti yes and some year cause sa report ya abeto ya yinti.
The case in the High Court will be stayed for that interpretation to go to the Supreme Court and come back to the High Court. Yes. Now, what you are seeing is a Supreme Court under the current Chief Justice that is overly overstepping its boundaries. First and foremost, seeking to get into the matters of Parliament, which is a closed book. And I expect, Mr. Speaker.
It does not happen now. I mean, that is.
I expect, Mr. Speaker.
They address that matter.
I am expecting, Mr. Speaker. I'm expecting, Mr. Speaker.
Read Article 125.
It
does nullify that closed book argument.
I have respect. I have respect for our viewers. I'm not going to be doing this with echo. No.
Senior, I agree. Senior, let me see to you. It's fine. Go ahead.
Good. Thank you. Listen, the Chief Justice is overstepping her powers and is bordering on abuse of her powers under Article 296. She's being arbitrary and capricious and malicious in the use of her powers, usurping the powers of her own lower courts, the high courts, and then seeking to tell Parliament what to do. And that's why I have said that if the Chief Justice thinks she's so vested with so much power, she should come and sit in Parliament, convene Parliament, and go ahead and conduct government business for them. But you see, the Chief Justice must know, like the Speaker said, that we do not respect the supremacy of the Supreme Court. We respect the supremacy of the Constitution. The Supreme Court has no supremacy over the Parliament of Ghana. And you see, it pains me that members of Parliament are complicit in this rape of the powers of Parliament, because today it serves their partisan parochial whims and caprices.
Mr. George, what is the import of this particular ruling to the extent that political parties now, if per what that's Visitor Safwa is saying, is anything to go by, have been rendered powerless in taking any disciplinary measure against any of your party MPs who were sponsored by the parties on the ticket of the party to get into Parliament if they take a decision to contest as independent candidates in subsequent elections?
Let me say good morning once again to our viewers and to my co-panelists. When you read the dissenting judgments of Lovelace GSC and Amadou Tanko GSC, you see the pains that these members of the bench are in, because it's obvious to them and obvious to anybody who applies common sense to the ruling to realize that there is a battle of wits between common sense and the ruling that has been given by the majority grouping in this case. Like, there is a complete battle between common sense and logic and their ruling. There's the majority decision in this case. And you see, because even the judges led by the Chief Justice in the majority realize the lack of common sense and the lack of legal logic in their ruling, they only deal with relief one, that's assault. They are silent on relief 2, 3, and 4. And so this judgment is hollow and empty and of no consequence to the Parliament of Ghana. I mean, the Speaker should not waste his time with this. He should just put it in the dustbin. It has absolutely no value. And so when I see Afenyo and his men running around that they've secured a victory, you ask yourself, a victory in what? You went to court asking the courts to make a declaration and issue a directive or an order on Mr. Speaker on the pronouncements Mr. Speaker has made. Despite for want of a better phrase, unreasoned judgment and logic espoused in the majority judgment, they realize that will be pushing the boundaries too far. And so they stay away from making any ruling on Mr. Speaker. So there is no ruling on Mr. Speaker. If you read the whole thing, there is no directive to Mr. Speaker. Absolutely no directive to Mr. Speaker.
Yes, because they say they can't do that. So if you want declaration of the seats, go to the High Court, page 14.
Is that not why I say common sense has eluded the judges who have made this particular... When you read this judgment, you see that common sense has completely eluded that judgment. You know why? And that's the point Justice Amadou Tanko makes. That look, the Constitution is clear. Read Article 99(1). And every article of the Constitution has a subheading. It says determination of membership. You said the Constitution is supreme. Article 99(1) says the High Court shall have jurisdiction to hear and determine any question whether A person has been validly elected as a member of Parliament or the seat of a member has become vacant. I mean, common sense. There's a difference between High Court and Supreme Court. If the Chief Justice was not seeking to pander to the wishes of political powers in the executive,
Why didn't the Speaker allow that for the High Court to do so? Pronounce on it. From your own. Why didn't the Speaker?
Sam George.
Why didn't the Speaker?
when you speak, I was quiet.
Sam George, make your point. Make your point.
You see, the Speaker has not made any determination on vacancy. Because again, don't forget that when you go to 97(1), it doesn't impose a responsibility on the Speaker. It imposes a responsibility on the Member of Parliament to vacate their seat. It does not say may, it says shall. A Member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in Parliament, and goes on in G. For F, it says if he resigns, okay, that's G, if he leaves the party of which he was a member at the time of his election to Parliament to join another party or seek to remain in Parliament as an independent member. And I'm glad Eko, in his submission, established the fact that Article 97 is dealing with the current Parliament and not a future Parliament. So it clearly means that Eko's explanation here today renders useless and completely illogical the arguments that have been made by Afenyo Markins and Jogate in court. I mean, and this is why you must realize that understanding of the law is not necessarily your longevity at the bar. We must establish that because Eko is a much younger lawyer, but he's been able to read through and understand that 97 is not talking about future parliaments. 90. You stated it here.
You supported that.
I have not said anything different from what you said. And Eko is spot on it. Is bull's eyes. Eko is bull's eye when he says 97 is talking about this parliament. The speaker's pronouncements have absolutely no consequence on the 9th parliament. They only have consequence on the 8th parliament. When it says you will vacate your seat, it is not talking about if you have no seat. None of us has a seat in the 9th parliament. Eko, you are sitting in a stronghold, so it's assumed that you will win, but you don't have a seat yet. Have you been sworn in? Do you have a seat in the 9th parliament? No, I don't have a seat in the 9th parliament yet. I'm hopeful to God that my people will return me to parliament and that God will grant me life to swear in on the 6th of January. Until that is done, I don't have a seat. So you cannot be telling me that the vacation of seat is relative to the next parliament. And that's why I'm saying that if the Lord Justices has applied even just logical common sense to what the Constitution says, we will not have this needless constitutional drama. Now, if it then means...
So the common sense you talk about is in the ruling, not on the persons, in the ruling.
It's about their ruling.
Okay.
I mean, I'm saying that there is no common sense in the ruling. When you subject this ruling to common sense, you see that they're having a fight. There's a fight between common sense and the logic espoused in the ruling. I'm not referring to the persons of the Lord Justices. Absolutely not. I'm referring to their reasoned judgment. And I'm saying that I do not see reason in their judgment. Good. Now, let's make the point that if a member of parliament, Eneko, you were voted for to this 8th parliament, not because you are handsome or not because you are tall, but because you contested on the ticket of the NPP. If you had contested on the ticket of the NDC in Old Tafo, you would not be sitting in parliament. Let's call a spade a spade. Your people entered into a social contract with you. You are sitting in parliament not because you have freedom of association. You are sitting in parliament because there was an election. Your people old enough to be your grandfather and grandmother queued to vote for you, just like me. They voted on the basis of the representation I made and you made to them. I made a representation to the people of Ningo Pram Pram that I am contesting on the ticket of the NDC. You made a representation to the people of Old Tafo that you are standing on the ticket of the NDC. It is that social contract we entered into with our constituents that gave us a seat in parliament. We sit in parliament not for ourselves, but in trust for the people we represent. Now, a decision of you or me or any other one of the 275 to alter that social contract means that you no longer have legitimacy.
Alter in terms of current or future?
Current.
But their intention is...
Wait. No. The question of vacation of seats is not about future, it's about current. The speakers, and the speaker's ruling. Listen, Echo. The speaker's pronouncements do not say that Cynthia Mamle Morrison, Kojo Asante, Andre Siama, and Peter Kwachiaka cannot sit in the 9th parliament. The speaker has no such power because he cannot even be vacating something that does not exist. Do you understand me? The 9th parliament does not exist. The only thing he can enforce vacation of, which 97 of the framers of the constitution intended in 97-1 is the current parliament. Today, wait, Echo.
So why did the Speaker of Parliament assume that there is a...
No, the High Court would only do that when there is a dispute. Listen, this is what it says.
There was a dispute.
So if there was a dispute, why didn't you go to the High Court? Why did you go to the Supreme Court?
Because it also borders on interpretation.
Absolutely not. So
you see,
no. When you read the rules of practice, Echo, the rules of practice, and you see,
I have my own.
This is why, Echo, please. This is why people say the Chief Justice, and I'm singling out the Chief Justice, because she is the one who empanels, and she is the one who has led us into this constitutional crisis. She spoke about a constitutional crisis. The Chief Justice is becoming detrimental to our democracy.
Why is that?
Listen, the Chief Justice herself is aware that the Supreme Court on several occasions has refused to hear matters where their original jurisdiction has been invoked when the Constitution is clear. Article 33 of the Constitution and Article 99(1) of the Constitution are clear when it has to do with fundamental human rights. Your first point, of course, should be the High Court. When it has to do with determination of membership or a vacancy,
it has exceptions.
It's the High Court.
It has exceptions.
There's no exception here.
There are exceptions.
There's no exception here. No.
There's a point.
We will go to Article 130. Wait. Alfred, hold on. Article 131 says, subject to the jurisdiction of the High Court. In the enforcement of the fundamental human rights and freedoms as provided in Article 33, the Supreme Court shall have exclusive original jurisdiction in matters relating to the enforcement or interpretation of this Constitution. Good. All matters arising as to whether an enactment was made in excess of the powers conferred on Parliament or any other authority. Now, where have wait. No, listen. Article 131 has existed.
Why is his argument?
That because of Article 131, it's an exemption to Article 33. Listen.
Of course, it's an exemption to Article 33.
Listen. In that instance, what it would then mean is that the Supreme Court would then have jurisdiction on every matter.
That's not true.
Because every matter that goes before any court in this land are based on the Constitution or an error of the Constitution. So then it means that every lawyer would then wake up and say that, look, I don't want to go to the High Court. I don't want to go to a court of appeal. I'm invoking the original jurisdiction because this is a fundamental human rights issue. And so I'm going. That borders on absurdity. And that is what our Supreme Court, led by the Chief Justice, some members of the Supreme Court, are lending themselves to such legal absurdity. Because you see, it is legally absurd that our Supreme Court, our Chief Justice, would allow herself to be used in such a manner to bring the Supreme Court to a place where the Supreme Court is standing in direct conflict when it comes to original jurisdiction on matters of fundamental human rights and a determination of membership or vacancy of same that is explicitly spelled out in the Constitution as the prerogative of the High Court. In fact, it goes ahead to say that when there is an issue that borders on interpretation in the High Court, the case in the High Court will be stayed for that interpretation to go to the Supreme Court and come back to the High Court. Yes. Now, what you are seeing is a Supreme Court under the current Chief Justice that is overly overstepping its boundaries. First and foremost, seeking to get into the matters of Parliament, which is a closed book. And I expect, Mr. Speaker,
it has not happened now. I mean, that is.
I expect, Mr. Speaker,
they address that matter.
I am expecting, Mr. Speaker. I'm expecting, Mr. Speaker.
Read Article 125.
It
has nullified that closed book argument.
I have respect. I have respect for our viewers. I'm not going to be doing this with Echo. No.
Senior, I agree. Senior, let me see to you. It's fine. Go ahead.
Good. Thank you. Listen, the Chief Justice is overstepping her powers and is bordering on abuse of her powers under Article 296. She's being arbitrary and capricious and malicious in the use of her powers, usurping the powers of her own lower courts, the High Courts, and then seeking to tell Parliament what to do. And that's why I have said that if the Chief Justice thinks she's so vested with so much power, she should come and sit in Parliament, convene Parliament, and go ahead and conduct government business for them. But you see, the Chief Justice must know, like the Speaker said, that we do not respect the supremacy of the Supreme Court. We respect the supremacy of the Constitution. The Supreme Court has no supremacy over the Parliament of Ghana. And you see, it pains me that members of Parliament are complicit in this rape of the powers of Parliament, because today it serves their partisan parochial whims and caprices. And that members of Parliament, Echo, you know, and Afenyo Markins knows, that look, to challenge a ruling or directive of Mr. Speaker, our standing orders give you a fantastic opportunity to come under a substantive motion. So today, you are telling me that every time any member is unhappy with a ruling of the Speaker,
which ruling
we will go away from our standing orders and run to our godmother sitting at the Supreme Court to give a ruling and say, look, then the Supreme Court should be ready to cite all members of Parliament on the majority NDC side for contempt. You must be ready to cite 136 of us for contempt and cite Mr. Speaker for contempt. But let me serve notice already that I have summoned the head of the Association of Magistrates and Judges. What's his name again? He's one of the new judges that was approved recently by Parliament. You
summoned him for what?
I've cited him for contempt of Parliament because he held a press conference and told a blatant lie. Unbecoming that a member of Parliament, because he didn't mention my name, he says a member of Parliament led a mob to the Supreme Court seeking to invade the Supreme Court and heave invectives. He must come before Parliament, our Privileges Committee, and establish for us which member of Parliament carried out such action. Because I led a group of clergymen to the Supreme Court to demand action of the Chief Justice, who has been sleeping on the LGBTQ case. The Chief Justice has become a cog in the wheel of justice. The same Chief Justice, a matter involving Parliament and the usurpation of the powers of Parliament under Article 106. The Chief Justice has now become a cog in the wheel of justice, standing against the wheels of justice grinding, and is playing ball to help the president evade service. I mean, look, it is a shame, it's an aberration, and like Justice Amadou Tanko stated, I hope that in the nearest future, a properly constituted Supreme Court would vacate this ruling, which is a stain on Ghana's legal jurisprudence. Look, any judge worth his salt or any law student anywhere in the world who picks this majority ruling would have a good laugh at the Supreme Court of Ghana. And it's a shame that such a court that has such distinguished personality, and that's the point. In 1 minute, that's the point. That's 10 seconds. That's the point. That's the point Martin was making. That you've got fantastic lawyers, Justice Pwamang, Justice Bafo-Boni, Yoni Kolendi. There's a reason why such reasoned and detailed and seasoned legal minds were kept away from this. So, they will not, look, for any consideration, bring themselves down to this.
What is the
unfortunate?
What is the status?
When Sam says, hold on. When Sam says that the Supreme Court was silent on all other reviews apart from one.
Yes,
we will get back into that.
That is why I wanted you to comment.
Let me just also indicate that
the Supreme Court realized that it would strip them naked.
The microphones are off. Now, what's the status of Cynthia Morris and Kojo Asante now?
She's campaigning against the candidate.
Wait. Are they still MPP? MPs?
I want to comment on one or two things that our brother
if you're not answering that, I asked you a specific question. If you're not answering that, let me acknowledge the presence of If you're not answering that specific question that I asked you, then I'm going to move on, because it was a follow-up question to an issue that some judge raised.
Because I don't even know the question. I don't even know the question. I'm just saying.
The question is, Cynthia and Kojo, are they MPP candidates?
What is their status?
Are they not campaigning against your candidate?
I'm suggesting to you.
That's what? That they are not campaigning against your candidate?
No. Sam George, what is their status now?
They have declared an intention.
Are they MPP?
No, it's not an intention. They have declared their intention.
They have declared an intention.
No, you see, we shouldn't allow Vincent to do this. Vincent, you are a lawyer.
The 9th Parliament.
No, you are talking about menstrual.
Thank you.
Have they done the actus? Has the act not been for something to be found?
Thank you.
No, the act and the intention has been actualized by them filing nomination and by them campaigning.
I just needed an answer. You have just given the verdict.
No, they have not shown an intention.
Gentlemen,
they have acted
your microphones are off. Your microphones are off. Thank you.
I keep telling you that, or making the submission that in law, if the Supreme Court wants to find jurisdiction, it's easy to find. In the same way, if they want to decline, it's easy to do. So let's set a bit of the parameters so that we understand. I always say that let's remember, just like, and it's good, we can relate to the Bible. You see the way the provision in Micah, the one about tithes, you see how some pastors will interpret it to mean that you must bring 10% of your income every month to the church. Other pastors will say no, it just means that give what you can give. That's the same way the Constitution is. We have so many rules, okay? There is the ideal one, but you will never get lawyers to agree. So what we call ideal, purposive interpretation, even that one, a court can set out to say I'm doing purposive interpretation. And yet, what is actually happening is not purposive. So all I'm saying is that our idiosyncrasies, ideological positions, prejudices, everything of a judge is also reflected in judgments. You may not see, the judge will not say, my ideological view is this, or my philosophical view is this, so it's affecting the judgment. No, but they all do. So the jurisdiction matter, I always said it from day one that bottom line is that it's the Supreme Court that has the power. So if they want to find jurisdiction, they'll say, yes, there's jurisdiction. Because, ask Bobby, we go there, sometimes you couch your case, thinking that, yes, you've created a jurisdictional matter for them. They'll look at it and say, no, they don't think so. That's their opinion. So what I'm saying is that it's not a straight jacket. It's fluid. It's subject to everybody's interpretation. So the fact that they say they have jurisdiction, I don't believe so. Look, what we are struggling, I don't agree with the Supreme Court that there's jurisdiction.
Why is that?
But I agree that because we belong to different schools of thought, they have the right to what? Disagree, and they can hold a different opinion. And that's why I say that. So in all of this, the real understanding of what is going on is you look at how they are appointed. This is the very reason for which they are appointed. A president looks at the various judges and he will choose those who think like him, those who support his viewpoints, those who reason like him. Then we say what? The same philosophies, the same jurisprudential viewpoints, the same ideologies. That's what they do. So he's choosing people who reflect his thought. So don't be surprised decisions like this go in the favor of the ruling government. And it's not only MPP that does it. NDC too. Sam George is here. When you are in office, you choose your friends to go to the Supreme Court. Then you say, oh no, it's the ideology, it's the jurisprudence. Yes, you want similarity in jurisprudence. That's what we mean by friendship. So this matter, all I'm saying is that there is no right or wrong answer. No, there is no right or wrong answer. But ultimately, it's all about the one who has the power. And the one who has the power is the Supreme Court. And they say a jurisdictional issue. I don't see it. It's a ruse. Listen, the reason I disagree is that the purposive interpretation that you hear the lead opinion, Justice Asare himself invokes. Yes. One of the cardinal principles of the purposive interpretation rule, the starting point is that take the words, okay, give them their ordinary meaning in the context. He's quoted it all. Then as he goes on and on and on, he's not staying faithful to it. He goes to bring the history, okay, selective history. So you see, it's not complete. He chooses the ones that reinforce his opinion. Okay, so it's not like a strict science, though law is a science, but that's a social science. It's not like the this fiscal sciences where you say, okay, 1 molecule of hydrogen plus 2 molecules of oxygen will give what? Water. No, the law one, though we say it's a science, it's not as strictly fiscal science as the one I just described, right? So their viewpoints and all those things are written in because he says he's doing purposive interpretation. Now, when you read the words are very clear. Who has asked you to go and resort to history and the rest? No, read the first words. They are very, very clear. And so in interpretation, we have the principle that, listen, there is a distinction between undesirable law and then unconstitutional law. If you are saying that what we are faced with is that the court is saying the law is undesirable. But be careful, the same Supreme Court, you hear Kluje, Datiba, and even from the 1979, you hear Fatal versus Minister of Interior. They make it clear. The fact that law is undesirable doesn't mean you should strike it down. No, if it's very clear, it's clear. Too many Supreme Court decisions. When the law is clear, just leave it at that. Don't go and resort to esoteric meanings because as Justice Asare wrote, then he bound himself, entangled himself in so many things that were unnecessary. Look, let's go here. What is difficult about if he was elected a member of parliament as an independent candidate and joins a political party? What is difficult about this?
That's Article 97.1.
Yeah, 97.1.
G.
Yes, J. No, that's H. I'm talking about Isiama. What is difficult about this? Then you go to our history, and some people, Dr. Gladys Nsowa, who, there were people who, in the term of parliament, they switched, and then nothing happened. Meanwhile, the same Supreme Court has held that when an unconstitutionality goes on for even hundreds of years, it doesn't ripen into constitutionality. Justice Asare goes on to say, no, if we allow this thing to stand, then it means that the constituents will not get a representatives for the last 3 months. That's wrong, and that the Constitution intended that at all times we should have a representative. That's wrong, but within they say, excellent, yeah, you are talking about the same Supreme Court, June 2020. They saw it coming, that the decision they gave in the Valentine, Jache, Sametepe, that Sal, Central Kofi, Akwafu, Lolobi, and Lipe will not get an MP. They didn't make an exception. Jachi Kwesin. So many examples. But you see, so Justice Asare goes on to say that the Constitution intended that we should have a representative, the constituent should have a rep all the time. But that's not true. The same 97, okay, makes provision for what? Resignation. So is he saying that when a member wants to even resign within the last 90 days because the Constitution wants the constituents to have an MP throughout, that member cannot resign? It's provided in 97 here that the person can resign.
Yes.
If the person absents himself for more than 15 sittings, he can be removed. Okay? And then if he's found guilty of contempt of parliament, these are all there. And so
the reference you make is what is on the screen there. So on the HS you make reference to Andrew Siama's case, if the member was elected as an independent candidate and subsequently joins a political party.
Yes.
That's
thank you.
97H. In the reasoning of the Supreme Court, such decisions, the consequences of it, to the extent that the person's decision is of a matter of a subsequent election, an election that is in the future and not of the now, the consequences of it cannot be suffered in the parliament of the moment. And that if the person's decision affects the 9th parliament, then the consequences of it should then be applied in the 9th parliament. But if you look at the speaker's reasoning, and Council Martin Kpebu, the speaker says, if the consequence of violating Article 97 is of futuristic, implication, then there will be really no punitive measure, because if Andre Siama eventually wins the 2024 election in Formina, he's going to serve with the NPP. He wouldn't at the time violated this 97.
Thank you.
And if Cynthia Morrison wins as an independent candidate, he wouldn't obviously, or she wouldn't also be serving as an MPP MP. So is it the case that now when they win as independent candidate, they cannot then decide to do business with the MPP?
Thank you. Okay, so let me continue. So, good. Look at what Justice Aridaku wrote. He says that for the majority, he says the framers of the Constitution intended constituents to have uninterrupted representation throughout the parliamentary term, and any interpretation that undermines continuous constituent representation during a parliament's term is constitutionally untenable. This is false. That's not what the framers intended. 97 itself has provided that MPs can resign, and MP can be what? Expelled from parliament, etc. So this statement, this cannot be correct. That's what I said. You see, when the situation is not ripe and you force it, you have to explain. Then that's what the young people now in this court, you go explain tire, right? Yes, look at it. He said the framers intended that they should have uninterrupted representation throughout. It's not true. It's not borne out by 97. It's not borne out. Yes, you would, but there are exceptions. If you fall foul of the law, you'll be removed. And so if you are removed, and Article 11, 2, Clause 5 or 6 says that 90 days to an election, if there is a vacancy, no further by-election. So this is not true. That's why I said that what we have here is a situation where you've given power to somebody, and that's the person's prerogative.
You're waiting for when a reporter a year abeto yepno so because so when you subscribe to channel area but more say obe subscribe na feel so or like video and give us a thumbs up na feel share ma ofofro so na when you be here na wo hu ensem ekoso ewo Ghana memwanam so betimi achire wadwen afa ye ensem we nyina ho ewo comment box mu mobeti minkabium in my next video.
Thanks for watching. Like and share the video. You can also drop your comment. Please don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to turn on the notification.